Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here. Early this Monday morning. Had a little problem sleeping, so I got up a little early, have a cup of coffee, take my medicine, and I naturally have you on my mind every waking moment. And so here I am, trying to respond to that moment, this particular moment when you are the center of attention. And the center of attention is that what you are missing, what you are being denied, what role you are playing in it, and how perhaps we can wake everybody up and get back into. We as human beings are on this earth, ladies and gentlemen, to live as though we are in heaven. But this we call the world. And this is as far as we can get as in these forms away from heavenly. My purpose here is affirmed. I am not what I used to be. I threw my life away, and a power unbeknownst to me grabbed me, preserved me, to bring me up through time, to stand before you and to say to you that we are living an alternative life. We are not really living life. We are not really experiencing life. We are experiencing an alternative life. Let me say that again. We are not really experiencing life. We are experiencing an alternative life. And I'd like for you to look at that statement the same way we referenced it when we used to talk about truth, and then someone came along and took a lie and turned it around and said it was an alternative truth. It was still a lie, but it was what? Presented as truth. But truth stands forever. And what I'm saying to people all over the globe, you know something is wrong, because in certain parts of the world you're living under one type of system. In another part of the world you're living under a different system. In another part of the world you're living in under a different system. And all of these systems are set up supposedly to suggest to you, the people, that your system is the best system of the systems. That's why they're not imitating the others. But when you look at the facts, when you look for the truth, you find out in every system they are short, because there's crime, there's poverty. In certain places there's more crime, certain places there's more poverty. So it goes around in circles. One part of the country might seem to be anti-heaven, while another part seems to be embracing heaven, like you might look at the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. These one to each other, the other is the devil, and they are the righteous. Bottom line is, pain and suffering is everywhere. And so I have to remind you that all of the suffering that goes on in the world exists because we are living what we call in hell. Now, a lot of folks say this is the world. The world. In the world, my friends, everything has its opposite. If you're trying to be good, you can bet your last money. It's the same effort as is at play to be bad. And marriage, I want to say that because it's supposed to represent the nucleus for the family. And from that comes whatever comes. And what has come in America, and I don't know too much about the rest of the world, but I'm sure because the same things are everywhere, is that everybody that says I do, over half of them just don't. And half of the ones who stay together because they said I do shouldn't be together because they can't stand one another. They are a farce to one another. That's the way we are in societies all over the globe. We have been trained to be this way, ladies and gentlemen. We don't know it. But it's like the language you speak. You speak it as best you can because it's the language you know. So when I speak to you about living without the pain and suffering, that sounds ludicrous. This is the life you know, a life without pain and suffering. Somebody got to be conning you or trying to con you, thinking you a fool to believe something like that. When, in essence, what you're saying is that you, not only don't you know God, you don't even believe in God. Because to believe in a system that you're living in takes away the possibilities of you believing in a system that's different than that, unless you change one system to fit the other, or the other to fit the other. So we haven't changed the world in which we live in to fit the one that ideal that we have about heaven. So we must have changed heaven to look like the world. And we can say that we got churches all over the place. We got ministers and elders and popes all over the place. Everybody's wealthy because everybody's agreed that the tissue that would bind us all together would be money. Money, that's the tissue that binds us all together. And the reason that I say tissue, because anybody that wakes up can pop a little tissue and spit it up in any moment or anywhere, any way, because it's just that weak. But yet and still it binds us together. And it has backup. The backup is the gun and the law, permission, unstated, above the law, to get rid of anything that would squash the way of the world. Can you imagine walking around a man rather than experiencing the benefits of heaven? You can't afford anything. You can't afford a housing. You, a man, let alone having a family, can't afford housing, can't afford food. A man, a family, can't afford education. A man, a family, can't afford health care. Oh, there are many people that can, but there are many people that can't. Now, imagine, my friends, it's you. And then there's a system that permits this to continue to exist. And there's a system that talks about the hierarchy of heaven that permits this to exist. And here you are out here alone, and all of the human race says it's okay. And when some decide, well, it's not okay, let's give them something. Let's give them something. Maybe aid families with dependent children. Let's give them something. Maybe food stamps for a little food. Let's give them something. We're not trying to get them freedom, but let's give them something. Then at the same time, there's someone else saying, cut it, take away from it, turn them back into slaves, use them, abuse them like we used to. And this is the world. And see, I stand here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you that the reason that I can't afford housing, the reason that I can't afford the basic essentials of life is because of the world that I live in. It is because of the America that I live in. It is because of you, the American people, who are asleep and allow this to happen. And yet and still, I got to stand here and scream out every day trying to wake you up and tell you you've been deceived. Yes, the language you speak allows you to communicate one to the other. But there's a spirit that is not as complicated as this. And that's the spirit of love, understanding what life means to you and extending that same unlimited, whatever you imagine, to everyone else. And it's just simple as that. Watch some of the other videos I produce, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, God is simple. Life is simple. It's so simple. It seems to be impossible to believe. But your problem is you bought into a lie. You bought into a lie that's propped up with money and guns. This is supposed to be our heaven, but it's been distorted. It's been corrupted. And it appears to wake up and to do something about it. You're killed. So that appears to me the door that's open for people who are not possessed by this lie is to escape this lie, to stand up against this lie. And this lie will send us to where we're supposed to be, where true lovers of truth are. Or maybe just out of here, but never giving in and becoming a part of the problem. We were designed to engage ourselves in work or careers, or whatever you want to call it, as a sign of love. Because love is the answer to all things, not for money. But we go for money, not love. Just a reminder. We hold respect for rich people because they have what we have been taught to be important. And we want it. A poor person, who wants to be poor? No one. But how do you end it? By changing what makes them poor. And what is that? A lie. So, what am I to do now? Out of place, it seems, with a concern to make sure that everybody is satisfied. And not being sucked in to the system. What am I to do now? Only God knows.